So after a lot of very interesting sessions, some very performative ones with videos, with poems, with interactive workshops, comics drawing, high-level policy discussions, now we are going to reflect once again, and our panelists today are Sofia Romagosa from EuroHealth Net organization, then Isabel Ferreira from Center for Social Sciences, and Gerd Loop from Technical University of Munich. And we will try to talk about cross-pollination of different projects, and we will give floor first to Sofia, who is participating in two recently initiated projects, Resonate and Feast. Sofia, please, can you tell us a little bit about how you create connections and use learnings from one and into another project?
Yes, hello everyone. So my name is Sofia and I work for EuroHealthNet, which is a European partnership of organizations, authorities and institutions that work on public health, health promotion, disease prevention, with the aim to reduce health inequalities in Europe. And we are involved in two different European projects. One is the Resonate project and another one is the Feast project. So, well, I think there's been like a little misunderstanding with the Resonate project, because the Resonate project is on nature-based therapies and is actually looking at how these therapies can increase individuals and communities' resilience to respond and to cope with everyday life stressors. Also something that we call like biopsychosocial resilience. And yeah, so we're interested in understanding a better, like, more evidence on the link between nature and health and well-being, but also understanding how we can increase the acceptance, increase awareness and the use of nature-based therapies. When it comes about Feast, the Feast project aims at leveraging best practices and co-design solutions that can support the transition towards healthier and more sustainable food systems and diets. So this is a bit the introduction of the projects. When it comes about cross-collaboration, I wanted to emphasize cross-collaboration among partners, but also among projects. So, yeah, something that I was reflecting on is how when we come together as partners, we all share a vision, right? And how usually in the time frame of the projects, we usually don't have enough time to do all the changes that are needed in order to achieve the vision. Therefore, when we come together as partners, it's important that not only we share knowledge and experiences, but also how important it is to build working relationships, to keep working together after the project ends, so we can all achieve this long-term vision. Then, in terms of cross-collaboration between projects, I think indeed it is important that different consortia in the same funding call or in related funding calls come together to coordinate, to have like a coordinated policy message and address policymakers. So then this message is a lot stronger and we can attract the political support that we need in order to implement like the project outcomes, but also how to replicate them, how to scale them up, and how to sustain them, right? So in the case, for example, of Feast, some of the partners worked together in past projects and they came together as the Feast project now. Or, for example, with the Resonate, it is important that, for example, other projects that are also working, like also other projects working on nature-based therapies under the same funding call, like come together and increase awareness on nature-based therapy as a concept, because it is still not that well known. What are the benefits of using it in order to improve health outcomes and well-beings, but also how to increase the uptake of these more innovative therapies. Yeah.
Thank you, Sophia. I think we will talk a bit more about coordinated policy messages, but I'm glad that you touched upon the health benefits of nature-based solution and nature-based therapy, because we heard this morning about the UrbanNet project, which dealt with healthy corridors, and Isabel, you participated in this project. So we would like to ask you to maybe draw conclusions from this one or some learnings, which you can translate into the new project that you are currently participating, coordinating actually, which is a trans lighthouse.
I think one of well, we already presented UrbanNet in several sessions, so I'm gonna save you from that. Yeah, I think I will have to repeat a couple of things. I think I mentioned already the relevance that we have gave in UrbanNet for the socio-political dimension of nature-based solutions, and how we tried to introduce some innovation in the governance structures of the cities we work with, what we intend to do now. Of course, the room that we had to do that was till some extent limited, in the sense of the focus was on the more the product, of course, the process also of co-creation. But when we mention governance, we are bringing to the table the political representatives, and these are the ones that I feel that have been more challenging to include in the process and to dialogue with. And this is what we are going to do in trans lighthouses. I think I saw us. Yeah, thank you. So we will keep our focus on the ambition to have more and more inclusive communities. Trans is the acronym for the T for transformative, contributing to the full potential of nature-based solutions with communities. Also reflexive, grounded in assessment and critical analysis. I think we talked a lot during these days about the monitoring, to how to measure social impact. I think it is there is still room to do more research and to do more assessment of the solutions that are already being implemented. So in this new project, we will have 10 assessment cases and 8 pilot cases where we will test small-scale solutions with what we are seeing that is still missing, or we still can explore, resulting from the lessons learned of the assessment cases. And in that sense, we will keep on looking at how we can create just nature-based solutions, and how can governance techniques contribute to that ecological and social justice of nature-based solutions. Now we are not talking only about living labs, we are talking about living knowledges labs. It's a word that does not exist in English, but it refers precisely to the many types of knowledges that we need to have to create sustainable, inclusive, locally fair nature-based solutions. And so we will continue the work that we are doing in UrbanNet regarding the governance, we call it governance archetypes, so governance models, which we are trying to model. It is quite challenging, but we are trying to look how the same typologies of governance frameworks can deal with the challenges and opportunities to create nature-based solutions. And then also the North-South community of practice. We had already some discussions regarding the epistemologies of South. We are always learning so much with the epistemologies of South, and we intend to do this much more intensively in this new project. We have a number of partners from the Global South, and we are very much looking forward to collaborate with them and hear from their experiences. Finally, I would like to present you also something that is related with this cross-project collaborations. That is the work that we have been doing within the Task Force 6 dedicated to co-creation. Some of you have heard in the previous section, the presentation of the decision tool. We are actually in the next slide. Yeah.
Yes, but I think at this moment I would like to address Gerd. Gerd is also taking part in the Trans Lighthouses project, and he's bringing his knowledge from the previous one, which is Fuzikos, with a bit of different topic that we did not discuss much. So can you please briefly explain us the project and learnings from that one?
Yes, so thank you very much for being here and for being on the panel. What I have to say is I also think about clustering of projects. So the idea was, there's also the idea of speaking of sibling projects instead of sister projects, because new projects are following up, other ones retire, but also there are different calls and different topics on nature-based solutions, and also I think it's very worth having the cross-fertilization of it. And I have to say, nature-based solutions, it's a very, very big topic and a very, very big issue in urban areas. Okay, the majority of people actually live in urban areas or in cities, but don't forget the countryside. We have a lot of space to do, to work on. We also need to find solutions. Climate change is speeding up. We have really a lot of very, very, very pressing issues to be solved and to be addressed. And if you look at what nature-based solutions are in the countryside, some of them are quite similar to urban areas. So you have also natural hazards. So Fuzikos is basically deriving from a hydromet call. So we deal with hydrometeorological risks in mountain areas. So it's landslides, it's avalanches, it's rockfall, it's erosion, but it's also flooding. And we try to, during Fuzikos, we try to demonstrate that there are good solutions that are quite simple to implement. They can be useful. Can you just go the slide back again, please? And so some of the solutions are quite simple, or seem to be quite simple, like planting trees, forest slopes. Try to re-establish forest where it has been dying because, for example, for climate change reasons. So trees are dying of drought, of bark beetle. But we also talk about, you see the other pictures here, so they look more like hybrid or technical solutions, but actually, in fact, they are nature-based solutions because we work with local materials to protect the upcoming new forests over here, or when you have a landslide area, slopes are unstable, you have to find a solution to construct something that stabilizes the slope so you can establish or you can plant trees. So like the lower one, and a classical topic that you have both in urban areas and in rural landscapes is trying to keep and balance water in the landscape. So in urban areas, you talk about sponge city, for example. We talk about restoration of wetlands in large scales, which is also nature-based solutions. Yes, so we had a 5-year project, so the project has retired recently. And we worked on a lot of things, and we managed to answer a lot of questions, but a lot of questions emerged. A lot of questions are actually similar, like in the urban areas. Some are a bit perhaps different, also interesting for if you build models to see if they work in a different context or you can validate them. But a couple of issues remained in the project. So like, what is the perceived effectiveness of durability of nature-based solutions? This was a big question that our stakeholders said. We have solved some things. We are persuaded by a couple of things, like it's beneficial for nature. But what is the long-term efficiency of the project? There was a problem of, until the end of the project, we had 5 years. Okay, there was COVID that slowed down processes. But there was still at the end a lack of knowledge in terms of, actually not about nature-based solutions only, but also about what is actually a hazard in a mountain area. Is it a problem? is it not a problem? So sometimes you just have a landslide occurring or a rockfall, then people are aware, but sometimes they're not aware that it's actually a problem of flooding and that they can do something. And the other point is nature-based solutions. It's nature, we work with natures. You have seen forests. It takes until they mature, and it's time that is needed. And it's for that reason, we plant something, for example, we build the Kreiner walls, let the school children plant in their trees that they have grown in the elementary school. Yes, but what will be the long-term effect? So we can model to some extent, we can present modeling results, people like it, but they want to be, well, what is the long-term proof? So you just present us models, but what is the reality? Does it really work in the long run? And we need more studies, and so we cannot answer these questions in 5 years' times.
So yeah, we have some open questions even at the end of the project. So this is a question for all of you, or some of you who would like to answer. Can we define some strategies which would sustain and build upon the achievements and ensure the long-term impact of the closing projects? And how we can bridge the gaps between the missing knowledge and the new projects? And maybe we can come now to Isabel's slide that she referred to.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly let you know that we are about to publish a report that is the result of joint discussions between several European EU-funded nature-based solutions projects. At the beginning, we were a high number of projects. More at the end, we were a bit less, consolidating a report, including, I think we are, most of the projects are represented here, so Urbinat, Clever Cities, Fusicos, and Go Green Routes were the core group of people from these projects that were at this report, where we tried to design or gather guidelines from the 4 projects. So it was a lot of co-creation challenge too. It took us a long time to also, it's interesting, it's not only within the projects, but also between projects to align what are the concepts that we are using. We are using it many times with different meanings. We use different typologies of stages, different typologies of scales, and so it was challenging to gather all of this diversity and complexity in a report to gather guidelines from these different realities. But we end up with an interesting report that is at the very end stage of the, at an editorial end stage. It has been reviewed already by colleagues from other projects and also from policy officers from the European Commission. So it's really at the end stage, and we will be addressing, we will have at the beginning of the report some building blocks of co-creation processes, so that really gather, let's say, concerns and topics from all the projects. Then we will have what the main approaches to co-creation and co-governance of nature-based solutions, including key policy trends, so EU policies and global agendas. We have also a chapter regarding the understanding and mapping of stakeholders, so analyzing stakeholders from the perspectives of diversity, participatory culture, diversity of roles, and inclusion challenges for different people. And then we also have how and resources for the co-creation of nature-based solutions, so co-creation in action, where we have the key principles of participatory design models. Then we have a co-governance chapter where we discuss criteria to guide the transition, let's say, from a governance context to a governance context or collaborative context, collaborative governance context. And finally, we have a chapter on the methodologies and tools for participatory assessment, so that the assessment can also be co-created with all the actors that are participating in the co-creation of nature-based solutions. So we try to gather best practices for the co-creation of nature-based solutions at different stages, phases, and scales, and we will be very happy to share the result with you very, very soon.
Thank you very much, Isabel. And Gerd, would you like to comment on this a little bit?
I think it's well summarized, so I don't have really to to add something there. So just we are really in the final stage, and really, I think everybody is looking very forward until we can present it to a broader audience. And I think it's very valuable, useful for other projects also, because it's in some cases it's also the legacy of the projects, like in Fusikos, how really to transform and transport things that have been elaborated or challenges that have been faced and overcome. So how to transport and transfer it to other projects or other people who are interested to have co-creation processes, to transfer the knowledge that there is, and also to have a legacy beyond some reports that are more related to some to the calls or to the data banks then. So I think this kind of cross project work is really very valuable to have it together, and also reflecting together on the different topics here with the different perspectives. I think that was a very valuable experience for every one of us.
Of course. And would you like to share your thoughts on maybe revisiting projects that we mentioned during one of the discussions? And yes, the fact that there are still open questions and that some monitoring issues.
Yes, so I would also strongly recommend or encourage to revisit projects. So in Fusikos, we already had the idea of, because we were quite sure that we cannot really cover all stages of co-creation at the sites during a 4 or 5 years period. And already in this project, we had the idea of including a concept case, we call it, where already a measure had been implemented. It was the Isar River restoration. And the idea was really to revisit it, also to look at the stakeholders, the changes they had, the changes in mindsets, sharing the ideas, or how perhaps enemies became best friends. So it was really the case at the Isar in some cases, where first of all, things seemed to be unsolvable and a lot of opposition, and then there was really the relief and finding good solutions together. So I think that was very interesting. But it was also interesting in terms of, yes, learning for the others. So it was really nice for the other ones to share the experience, or for the other projects that wanted to implement nature-based solutions, to see and have the experiences shared from the stakeholders' perspectives when we walked along the Isar River, the restoration. But also when we looked at the Isar case, and we had a modeling team, and they asked us for questions for data. And actually there's a very strong authority collecting data also after restoration. A lot of data was actually missing. Like there was not really done, social cultural monitoring was not really done. Also certain species were not assessed. And it was really important then for us to try at least to collect some data and to fill the gaps, and also to see as a kind of proof, as I said before, what's the proof of concept, that you have the data from monitoring, that you can show that it works and things improve, or maybe some things don't work. That's also important. So you also can learn from things that have not really been achieved or that became a problem, like for the Isar. The result of the restorated river was that there's now enormous recreation pressure in a very fast-growing urban area, so which really also is counterproductive to some of the goals, especially the biodiversity goals for the river. And then there's, of course, climate change, and you can really see the changes that are happening, and really that things are really speeding up.
Thank you, Gerd. And this is the final question for all three of you. And it is, what would be your personal takeaways from these 2 days of very inspiring discussions at the conference? Sophia, please.
This is a difficult one. Yeah. So, well, thinking a bit of the focus of Resonate and FEAST, they have a little bit of different focus compared to many of the projects that have been presented during the conference. But I feel that one of the main commonalities is about the integration of co-creation processes into the project's work. And yeah, one of the main takeaways that I'm taking from this conference, and that I will bring back to the partners of the project, and especially those that are leading the co-creation processes, are that there is no perfect co-creation process, right? And that challenges keep arising in the process, and that making modifications to the initial plans is okay. And something else that I think that I'm taking from this conference as well is how in these co-creation processes, like building trust takes a lot of time, but that it is a key step in the process of co-creation, and that definitely this building of trust will increase the acceptability of the project outcomes, but also the sustainability. Talking about sustainability is also like one of the key questions, how we can ensure sustainability in co-creation processes. And in the context of FEAST, for example, we had a very interesting workshop this morning on co-creation processes to support the transition towards healthier, more sustainable food systems. And one of the challenges that we were discussing is how to ensure that stakeholders can feel like the owners of the co-creative process, right? And many good ideas came out from this workshop, and one of them was about the development of and establishment of grant programs, and so that stakeholders take control over the budget, on how to assign different proposals, or if thinking of how we want to shift behaviors towards healthier or more sustainable diets in a community. It's not only about providing them with opportunities, for example, building a community garden, but also it's about giving them the capacity on what to do with this, right? Because it was really well put by one of the participants, it might be that they don't know how to cook with all of this, because it's possible that they come from a very different food culture, and they don't know how to cook with it. So we need to maybe just teach them and giving them the capacity to do so. So definitely giving them opportunities, giving them the capacity can increase their motivation and commitment to be part of co-creative processes and sustain them in time. These were just few examples, many other good examples brought up, but for the sake of time, I'm just not focusing on that. And and maybe linking it with the importance of having a coordinated policy message towards policymakers. Something that inspired me yesterday as well was the fact on the importance of having presenting data to policymakers. That's always a good way of presenting the issue and the arguments, but also how important it is the way we present the data. So we need to think of that, and maybe with visuals can work a lot better than just providing them with numbers that for some might not be able to interpret it or understand the issue behind it. So maybe with visuals can be a good way to present and maybe convince them about the importance on what we're working on. So maybe these are the main takeaways and lessons that I might bring to my projects. Yeah.
Isabel?
Well, it's a real challenging question, but I tried to think of a pair of aspects that I think were more interested me more. Let's say, I'm not sure if it's about lessons. Maybe it's more new questions that I formulated within the discussions. And one of them is, how can we fill the gap that it is still very clear between the real capacity of academia, municipalities, communities, the real capacity to co-create nature-based solutions. Of course, we are demonstrating with our project that this is possible. The nature-based solutions have many benefits, and it is possible to co-create them, which is very challenging, but it is possible. But let's say, how to replicate all of this and how to mainstream this approach, this logic, how to embed the nature-based approach in public policies, actions, and activities. I think this is still a challenge, and we still have a lot to do in terms of communicating our success stories to decision makers. So this is the target group that we still need to work a lot to reach out. Then the second aspect that I thought about is very much related with the first one. So how to captivate political decision makers. We don't have much in the room. We have Santiago, but I don't know if there is someone else. I don't think so.
There was a subsecretary from Belgrade for environmental protection, yes.
Okay, good. So we had two during the conference. Okay, but we need more, so much more, right? And so how can we... in fact, it is much more easy I think we have now, we have methodologies, methods, tools to engage citizens, but we still need to work on how to engage decision makers, political representatives, and find channels. We need creative channels to reach to them. It was very interesting in the session of storytelling, and after the session I had already the opportunity to talk about this with Marta. How can art and eventually comics, we are not sure if it is the best tool to help us to create narratives, stories that, as you said, help us to meet people where they are, so to meet the decision makers where they are. How can we create simple, sophisticated knowledge in a simple narrative, in a simple and attractive narrative? Yes?
Can I just add to this, because you're just talking about picture-based narratives, and so it's just leaving us. And I just wanted to say a big thank you for all you've done here.
It was really the right moment to thanks for the beautiful illustrations. So then also the two more very quickly now. Educational challenges. We mentioned a lot the importance of involving children. I also wonder how can we continue to work with children and youth, but without forgetting to keep communication targeting the adults that are responsible for their education, including their families and the teachers. I think it's a community, the education community, that we still, there is still room to work on the relevance of nature-based solutions within this community. And finally, the importance of reinforcing a continuous cooperation with sibling projects, as much as we are doing here today, as we did in Task Force 6, but also, as I said already, with the rich experiences from the Global South. There were some things I heard here and there. I think we still we need to reinforce those dialogues. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Isabel. And Gerd, please.
Okay, so what I found really inspiring over here at the conference is it's really striking to have all the different disciplines here to exchange and talk and really getting together nature-based solutions, moving forward, getting them on the grounds, and really I learned a lot of things in the last 2 days. Yes, but there's something that is still, well, kind of homework for all of us, I think. Yes, we need to share and also transport the importance and also the urgency to get things implemented on the grounds. And we need to reflect how to better really reach out to everyone outside. So we are living in a kind of filter bubble here in our nice, comfortable nature-based solution filter bubble. We discuss exchange. But we need to get out and reach out and really get it on the ground that people will implement it, and we need to implement them in much larger scales. We have to think big, really. So time is running, challenges are pressing, and we need to get them on the ground. And what I was really inspired in, so how can we reach out beyond our scientific papers that we have to write, the policy papers, or I think we are quite good in these kind of things, but really to reach out much further, and I found the session on storytelling very inspiring in that terms, really to have these kind of visuals. I know as we are maybe not that emotional, but also perhaps transport emotions, and I thought it was really a very, very good experience, and we should learn from that one and really spread out the word about nature-based solutions, spread the seeds to get them on the ground everywhere. And finally, also, what is important is also what we see with our stakeholders. We need more hands-on cases, so things that have been implemented. So thanks to the projects that we have, so we could do already something. So there's maybe small, perhaps something as a kind of seed, so that things get bigger. But really, the hands cases are very important, and to share that also with the stakeholders present, to share their experiences that they made. I think this is really important, and would be good to have really these kind of inspirations from cases or nature-based solutions that have been implemented.
Thank you very much for depicting these lessons learned. The last 4 minutes I will use, if I may, to also take this challenge of summarizing some of the takeaways. I was just noting down during the sessions I attended the words and the key messages you shared. So regarding the co-creation and community engagement, I would like to say that Sean asked a good question: how do we push the shared governance? And I think it's important to underline that actually sharing the power means also sharing the responsibility, which is very relieving for the authorities. Then also that when we co-create, we provide opportunities for the local community, but we also ask for commitments. Then it is very important the language and the representation that we are using, which is connected with the storytelling and the comics and the drawings. That co-creation means that there are no financial benefits upfront very often, but that we are actually investigating in a social value of the scheme that we are proposing. That there is a lot of power in a lot of connected conversations. That was Chris' message from the London Community Design Collective. That can provide area-specific solutions, that we can bring vulnerable groups as active players, and that we always have to show a lot of mutual respect. Regarding the design and maintenance principle, I would like to say that we were mentioning more ecological maintenance rather than the conventional ones, that we have to consider provision of biodiversity shelters when we are planning and designing, that many implemented cases faced vandalism, or even some old ladies taking plants from the green corridors in many cases. But even when that happens, it is important to repetitively reinvest and to be patient, not to get discouraged, to be consistent and persistent, because we are trying to create a long-term change in the approach. And Gerd mentioned the monitoring. We also had an interesting proposal of maybe simplifying monitoring and delegate it to the citizens as a continuous engagement mechanism, which is for further elaboration and discussion. And finally, regarding the governance and maintenance models, we concluded that maintenance sometimes can be really easy to do, but very complicated to agree. We heard the collaboration agreement a couple of times in various sessions, sometimes very locally based, sometimes even related to the urban greening plans as a policy instrument, that maybe it shouldn't be a plan, but just a collaboration agreement. We had examples of Pact of Collaboration in Turin. We had Community Design Collective, which we heard a lot about, and it is very impressive, from London. And from their particular experience, we understood that it is very important to find the voices of real individuals who will be the bridges of communication between various stakeholders, that we need to explore new roles and new business models. From other sessions, some of the last ones, we learned a lot about using alternative financing as impact investment, crowdfunding, match funding, and how to foster nature-based enterprises. We have the opportunity now to explore more innovative pathways and new tools. And we also learned that it is very important to balance between the strategy and the action. I also wanted to thank Rob, but great that you did it because he left. So all the notes that have not been taken, you can see at the wall and at the drawings. And I would like to close, okay, it's 0, but okay, to close with this slide. That is one of my own photos from the site of Thamesmead in London. And with the final lines of the poem that Chris wrote from the Community Design Collective and shared with us yesterday. He said, for you, this is a photographic opportunity, but this is our community. And I really could relate with that because it reminded me of the looks of the local people when we were taking photographs. And I think that it is a strong reminder that whenever we do our research, we experiment with our planning practices, we implement investments, we always have to keep strong respect towards the local community and to engage in very meaningful conversations and relations with them. And I think that all that we have heard in the last 2 days really evidence that Clever Cities project really managed to do that, and it was really successful in this. And I would also like to use this slide to remind you that there are a lot of recordings on our website and that you can go back to some of the sessions, and this one as well. And for the end, I would like to thank to all the panelists, all the facilitators, moderators, all the participants, or all the organizers, with a special thank to Cassia Ruth, who put amazing effort in organizing this. And our infinite gratitude to Martin, our coordinator, the most fantastic coordinator in the world, who really